our, I don't know, 127th call or something like that. Anyway, we didn't meet for the last week because we were all, or a lot of us were at OCP. And so what I have on the screen here for anyone new is sorry, the transcription is bugging me here. What I have on the screen for anyone new, these are the minutes that get sent out weekly with a summary at the top. Last week we covered some 128 bitwise operations PR from Sosutha, and we also had some information from Mircea at Keysight about the hero test, which is the performance test for the cards, and we talked about OCP. Let me go through a summary of what we did for the last week and some follow-up tasks, and then these are the too long, don't read meeting notes pertaining to everything that was said in the meeting and what we talked about. I do post these to YouTube here. Usually you can click YouTube if you've missed the call. And yeah, that's about what that is. So I did notice this week, somehow my list has been translated to the Linux Foundation. So there's you guys may be seeing some emails. This is a tool they want me to start using. I'm not sure if this is something we want to do if we like things the way they are, but I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. So if you see anything sonic-lists.sonicfoundation.dev, that's they're trying to get me to map over to their tooling. So just letting you know that. And I did forward two of the requests over to two members I saw joining there. So that's what's happening there. And so what I have here, this is our GitHub project board. And so, in summary, these are the PRs we have waiting for review and the things that we got done this week or last week. And we had some PRs here that are kind of new. And so did anyone want to go first today to cover anything that's open or waiting review?
I can go first.
You want to go first? Okay. All right. And that's the, which one, Mircea? I'll find it.
The hero test documentation, and I can share my screen.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. You go ahead.
1 second. Share screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
I'll try to make it a bit bigger.
Okay.
Okay, so under documentation, general, we had here the program scale and testing requirements. It had the word draft in it, so that's the first thing I removed, the word draft. Hopefully by now it's out. These remain unchanged. But at the end, it had an implementation, I would say pre-dash implementation that I moved into this other file. This is just copy paste. So I just broke that long file into two things. And this is how hero test was done before. And then I added a link to a new document. So this is a new part that talks about how we do hero test today. And it's more like a natural progression, also how we start from making a test with one single IP just to validate that we can, pass a packet from end to end all the way to the actual hero test. So this talks about that, talks about basically hardware, how to cable it, how to set it up with some example diagrams. Talks about how we can push the config to the DPU either using the Dash API, the SCI API, or there is available a vendor-specific API, but this is private, so each vendor can see their own, but others cannot see other vendors' private APIs if they want to configure it that way. And then we start with what I call one IP test. This is more like a one flow test. Basically, you need two IPs at least to validate that you can configure the building blocks and testbed works. So this is done. But also I observe sometimes this can be the best case scenario. And let me talk about that a bit. what I notice is that while hero test is meant to show the worst case scenario, so it's a synthetic test that want to show the worst case scenario, the vendors don't necessarily want to show only the worst case scenario, they also want to show the best case scenario. So one IP test on some architectures could be the best case scenario, basically. It's the smallest scale, smallest load, and so on. While this is not the best case scenario, it's basically on a, let's say, a highly parallel architecture where maybe you need, I don't know, let's say you have, 30 different blocks, parallel blocks, and then you will need at least 30 IP so you can load equally all of them. And that can become the best case scenario. After that, we do something what we call it more like baby hero test, God name. It tries to be about 1% of the scale of the hero test. Usually this addresses problems with loading the config. For example, if it takes a long time to load the config, this one it's 1% of the hero test, so it loads 100 times faster. But it still has most elements of the scale to 100, like ENIs. It has all of them, of 32 or 256 for the smart switch. It has all the ACL tables, it has all the ACLs and so on. But then in each ACL, it doesn't have 100 prefixes. It has only one prefix. And then you don't need to have the mappings and the routing for these prefixes, which makes the config basically about 1% of the hero test. Usually, if we scale it and we move past baby hero test, but for example, we cannot reach full scale and we reach half scale or quarter scale or so on, this kind of in between. And this is depending where we are in the project. Of course, the hero test, which is this is the test and this is the scale as specified by the hero test. If any of these didn't show the best or the worst case scenario, based on the observation, we can create those. So again, purpose of hero test is to be the worst case scenario, but if somebody optimized for the hero test and we find other things that is the worst case scenario, we'll add that to the list. We don't know upfront what it is. It depends hardware to hardware, implementation to implement. It can be different firmware version to firmware version. And on top of CPS, we look at a few other metrics. PPS, this is very easy to obtain, especially in the beginning. And we know per connection we send 7 packets, and you can do a very quick napkin math from the PPS. PPS divided by 7 equals CPS. And that's not going to be true, but it's give you a ballpark of where your CPS may land based on PPS. Latency, I believe there was a requirement 2 microseconds or something like this for the DPU. Now, of course, when you have the smart switch, you have to think that it goes through the switch ASIC, through the DPU, and back through the switch ASIC. So becomes 2 times the NPU latency plus the DPU latency if you test the smart switch. Throughput, usually this I never saw problems, but just making sure that you can send 100% line rate traffic, usually with bigger packets. And here there is a gotcha that usually people need to pay attention. There is a clock that affects the test gear and the clock that affects the DPU for this 100%. And there are some settings to make these clocks in sync. Otherwise, the 100% line rate of the test tool may be only 99.999 of the DPU or the other way around. And that is, I think, it's a PPM setting that can be done at hardware level just to get to 100%. So that's something where you have to adjust for it. Anything under 100% usually doesn't care about this. Of course, CPS. So that's the whole stuff about CPS. Flow table size. And flow table size is not necessarily that if the device can do the required flow table size, but also what happens if it's exceeded. Some could drop any extra traffic. Some can process it as slow path for any extra packet, or in some cases it can just crash and everything grinds to a halt. So that's interesting to observe what happens with the flow table. Background UDP and TCP flows, we run them in isolation also just to validate that in isolation they work. And then everything is put together to get the hero test numbers. Now, loss test says 0 loss, okay? But this is, how to say, so in reality, sometimes hard to do. One thing that, for example, can impact if you don't enable FEC, you may get, at least at 100 gig, you can get the CRC here and there, and you get a random drop packet. For that, I usually, as a minimum, want to have the FEC enabled to make sure that we don't get packets lost because of that. And randomly, one packet here and there every couple of minutes, sometimes gets lost, I saw. And for that, how I see the data presented, I try to get the performance where it runs reliably, let's say for a couple of minutes with 0 loss. But then also another point where, hey, lost 3 packets, but it got another million CPS extra performance. I mean, it's good to show that, because usually, like, especially TCP is going to handle, and 3 packets over 3 minutes is not in production. Customer is not going to see it. So that's another data. And then as you push it and push it and push it more, there will be a ceiling at which no matter how many packets you shove into the device, is just not going to go past that point. So we have like a 0 loss, which is under normal operation, this is what you want. If this number, let's say, target it's 1 million CPS, and you get 0 packet loss at 1 million, but then you get 3 packets loss from time to time, but you can go up to 4 million. It's also good to showcase that and not just disregard and say this device then doesn't pass over 1 million. And then you have the ceiling where it just doesn't go. And final test results, the intent is to present them something like this, something like to have a metric, PPS, CPS, whichever we are caring about, to have some scale points or performance points. This can be different based on the situation, and also have some best and worst case scenario. Why? Because in production, you're not going to be in the best case scenario, and probably you're not going to be in the worst case scenario either. So if the results can be presented like this, you will know that in production, you will be somewhere in between best and worst case scenario. And that will be the expectation, I would say. And I think that's all. And I'll have to go through comments and address them. Last week I was out on OCP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this week I'm actually on standby for jury duty. So probably starting next week, I'll do some meaningful work.
I'll try and read through all of this today again then, because I have seen over the last 2 years while we've been doing these tests, there have been a lot of questions about, how to do it, what do the results mean, and they've worked pretty much hand in hand with you, Mircea.
Yes,
So,
and I
yeah.
got also questions, so this is why
Yeah.
I had this to address most of the questions. And if there is any questions that has not been addressed or anything that's unclear, just put it in the comments of the PR, and I'll add other sections and explain. The purpose of this is to explain everybody's questions about how this test is going.
So I have my hand up. My hand is, what kind of difference have you noticed loading the config, the one IP versus the full hero test? Because I think you mentioned the full hero test was quite difficult to load over onto the card or cards.
Yeah, so first thing I would say, originally when we started, and and I'll talk about, let's say, the public APIs like SAI. First implementations of SAI had just one call at a time, and making one call at a time over, I don't know, if you sum up the routes, the ACLs and so on, it ends up about an 18 gig text file of settings. It was very slow, taking hours. I would say up to a day. Now, first improvement was done when side batch calls start getting implemented. So that was the first reduction, but it still could end up being in hours because sometimes that batch call, I cannot just make, let's say, the ACL and I have a table and I push all 1,000 at a time. Sometimes you have to chunk it and push 10 at a time. You know, no memory or other constraints that you cannot do huge batches. So it got reduced from 10, 20 hours to probably 2 hours, and in time zero optimization we made it faster. But I would say this depends a lot hardware to hardware. So I think the lowest I seen it's somewhere in the 2-3 minutes area for the full config, and the worst I seen it's in the basically a day or over to load the config.
Thanks, Mircea.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions now for Mircea? Okay, so this will be available on the repo for probably the next week or two. Mircea, is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mircea, super awesome work on this one.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was wondering if I could shift gears because I believe Sosutha's here. And Sosutha, did you want to share about your PR that P4 DPDK? Let me pull it up here.
I can give an update on that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just saw some emails come through, so
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
While I'm
initially,
here it is, P4 DPDK on the horizon. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So initially, the PR was based on supporting bitwise operations for 128-bit operands. It was not initially supported. So after the compilation of the dash program, which is already there in P4C repo for DPDK, we found out that support for 2 more operations like comparisons and comparison operation and complement operation was needed. So even that has been added now.
Here.
In the latest update we have added, and this program was not added as part of test earlier. Now that was given as a comment, so we have added it. But however, the dash program is still not compilable. There is a now the errors are due to 128-bit constants which are present in the P4 program. So this is not supported as of now by the compiler. We need to see how we can do it, and maybe we can take it as a separate PR. We need to, like, I have to check with Kristina like how we can support it in the backend. DPDK target, based on that, the changes has to be done in the DPDK compiler backend. So that would be taken as a separate PR. This can be merged with this much 128-bit operations are like supported.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, we have the reviewers. We've got Fabian,
I guess
and Andy.
Fabian is done. Yeah, I guess we'll get update from others as well. I have addressed which one is comment and Christine comment, and so I'll check with them. To Andy, I have updated in the same comment itself, so I think he should be replying.
Thank you. Yeah, I just saw activity this morning. Did any P4 or behavioral model enthusiasts have comments about this PR? Okay, well, thank you, Sosutha. I'll look forward to the updates, see where we go from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay. Yeah. And before we go on, did anyone else have a PR you wanted to cover? Okay, then it looks like the holiday is overseas, and so it looks like a Junhua, also known as Jimmy Zai, has been going ahead and making updates to his. I haven't noticed that they were wanting to merge quite yet, but he's been making updates to his PRs about the flows and the different ones. Like the appliance object and things like that. So these ones under review and specifically in the SONiC repo are still under review. For example, this is just the smart switch reboot high level design still open. There's been a lot of activity on this one, and also adding the ENI counters. This was a good one. This is still open, but there's a lot of they've been running the pipelines against it, and it still has activity here. So they need to finish the review on this one. And this one just had activity this morning, adding support for side ash appliance object, and this was contributed by AMD. And so they have some things to finish up here. Lawrence Lee was looking at changes a little bit ago. He's on the Microsoft side of things. And then we also have PMON PR here from Vasundhara. So I think Sasha's been working with her on that. And it needs review. This was Mircea's. So Mircea, way back up here in progress, we had these, do you remember those failures in,
Yes.
yeah, like the outdated DPU gen? Are these still lower priority? Failed to build a Docker file, site challenger, and overlay
Not lower
dest Mac?
priority. I just did not finish them.
Okay, okay, all right.
So maybe I should do a PR with what I have, even if it's not complete because it addresses few issues, and make another one with other, when I finish.
Do you want me to email you these, like the issues, or?
No, I have them.
Okay, all right. And then, so this is the one that's actually in the P4, and we had some finished, like added DPU platform test cases. That one's actually finished and done. I believe it's merged. Sorry if my machine's a little bit slow here. Yeah, that one was merged a couple days ago. And what I did notice, I noticed a couple of things we had. There's actually a dash APIs area, which I hadn't noticed before. And so there's a lot of work being done in a couple of different sub repos, but I haven't really put them in here. I did notice that, I think it was Marian opened this one. Yes, HA session parameter bounce back IP. So this is in the dash repo, but it's dependent on the SCI repo 2090 and 2091. So Marian, did you want to talk about that one, or just pretty self-explanatory?
Yeah, it's just one parameter that was added to reflect the HA design. It was initially missing from all of the HA session attributes. So we added this one as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a loopback IP of the switch. It's an optimization to not go to the DPU, just to send the packet from the same switch and have the same path in the network, just for consistency.
Thank you. So I did notice those, and then these I haven't had a chance to look at, but add sci metadata to libsci Debian. So this is, I believe, Zgon, also known as Torosaur. And so this is adding this to libsci Debian package. So they're working on that one. And this was just the linked one. Okay, so that's what I had for the day going through PRs. Did anyone have a question or something you wanted to cover before we talk a little bit about OCP? Okay, so we were in OCP, and I don't know if you guys are interested, please drop if you're not. We just had, SONiC workshop with SONiC VPP and SONiC-BMV2, so it was pretty well attended. This one particularly was about the sandbox environment for development, and so that one was on Tuesday around 11:30 in the morning, and we had pretty good attendance there. And then on Thursday, we covered like a private link offload. Michael, do you want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so Thursday we covered basically private link offload, and we basically presented Dash in the current form that we have right now, and showcase this with basically other folks about basically the Dash implementation. And we also had the first smart switch, which was there on display, that people can basically take a look how the DPUs looks like, and we saw basically the performance results, as well as basically the private link, which is the complex scenario on the Dash. To showcase those people, there was lots of attendance from different companies, and there was lots of questions about this, and lots of interest actually in the smart switch, also for deployments in the custom data center. There was, for example, Geico as a company that is moving out of cloud to on-premise, and they were also very interested in basically doing SONiC a lot, because it simplifies order kind of management and this kind of stuff. So they were looking very forward to entire SONiC implementation on their switches, and also using potentially smart switch for some traffic isolation. So this was actually pretty cool stuff. And I believe, Kristina, we have some pictures on this that was also posted on LinkedIn, right? So all the stuff that we are using here, it was kind of demoed, including like all the performance testing that we had on the hero test and this kind of stuff. So it was super awesome attendance.
Yeah, so it was nice to see everyone there. And sorry, I'm just trying to find a quick, there we go. I think I found it, the demo slide. If anyone's interested in looking, let me pull it up real quick. And I'll share my screen. God, Copilot keeps prompting, do you want to summarize? Do you want to do this? It's like, no, I just want to open my file. Okay. Can you guys see my screen again?
Looks like it's loading. Okay. Getting ready to load now, Kristina.
Okay.
It hasn't quite loaded. There it goes.
Okay, yay. Yeah, so this was the Thursday session, Limitless Networking with Smart Switch, and I think you guys have all seen the delivery of, what we're trying to do. But basically, we have the hosts that we have today with the NIC and the fast path processor. We're moving the policy inspection from here on the host over to here it could either be an appliance or a DPU or whatever, but this inspection and further routing is happening in hardware. So in this particular instance, for example, here on this device, we can, depending on the feature set, get 24 million connections per second per device, stateful connections. So this was a lot of what we were doing, and yeah, so that was pretty much a lot of what we were doing Thursday. It was it was really well attended actually, and yeah, that's all I have for today. Did you guys have anything you wanted to cover?
I would just add, Kristina, for those folks that weren't there last week, on Friday we had a SONiC Day Summit that we hosted up at Cisco, and we had two smart switch related presentations as well. So it should be
that's right.
End up getting posted up on YouTube as well. So those should be coming probably, I would assume, next week. And we did live stream those out, which was pretty cool.
Could you shoot me the link for those, the YouTube ones, so I could put them in the notes when you have time?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so we had a couple of new people today. We had Amal, and we had, I think it was, my screen's frozen, but John from Nokia. So welcome, guys. Usually we talk to Christian Nokia. So yeah, that's all I have. Anything else from you guys?
Yeah, maybe I also want to add that we also have some offline sessions, right? And on the offline session, there was also some people from the actual telecom providers, and they were kind of very interested in having some of the vendors basically start standardizing on SONiC, because they basically wanted to use SONiC even more in their data center, right? So I was able to potentially connect a few peoples there, and yeah, SONiC is catching up more, and people are actually very interested in using this on the telecom side, and all the other hardware that they are using there as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I noticed that the SONiC Outreach Committee wanted to provide, I think, 2 training sessions a year for people just learning, and that would be, the SONiC NOS. And then, of course, with our extensions for the DPU, I think that would be good training to have. I think they're organizing that. I've had a lot of questions, and I think Don Ewald has as well, about people reaching out saying, this is great. How does SONiC work?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming, and thanks for the contributions. And I'll go ahead and send out notes. And again, in the background, I'll work on that sonicfoundation.dev tooling. So thank you very much and have a good day.
Thanks, Kristina.
Okay, thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.